Okay, real talk for a second. Who hasn't been, like, really craving the delicious, crusty bread roll on keto? Like, come on.
Oh, it's the ultimate test, isn't it? Bread.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But what if, and stick with me here, what if I told you there might be a way to actually enjoy some bread A&D, still stay in ketosis?
Now you've got my attention.
That's what we're diving into today, folks. The world of keto breads. We're going to separate fact from fiction.
We're going to figure out if this is actually a solution or just, like, clever marketing.
Exactly. So we've got research articles, we've got expert opinions, the whole shebang.
Even some personal anecdotes sprinkled in there, to make things interesting.
Always got to keep it real, right?
Always, always. And we're going to do all this without, like, getting too lost in the sciencey jargon, yeah.
Yeah, no biochemistry lectures here, promise.
We're going to assume you already know, like, the keto basics, right? The whole fat-burning ketone thing.
Yeah, exactly. We're not starting from scratch here. All right, so let's get right to it. One of our sources basically says traditional bread is, well...
a keto nightmare, basically.
Pretty much. One slice can be like 15 grams of carbs, sometimes even more. Easy.
Which could be, like, half your daily carb allowance, right? Poof, gone.
Like one bite and you're done. And that's because, most breads, they're made with those refined grains, right?
The stuff that gets digested super fast.
Yeah.
And sends your blood sugar through the roof.
Not exactly what you want when you're trying to, like, stay in ketosis, right?
Yeah. Not ideal. Not ideal at all.
So then where do these keto breads, like, where do they fit into all this? They say they're low carb, but how?
It's all about the ingredients they use.
Really?
Instead of that regular high-carb wheat flour, they use alternatives, like almond flour, coconut flour.
Oh,
There's even things like psyllium husk. Ingredients that are, like, naturally lower in those digestible carbs, the net carbs.
Wait, hold up. Net carbs. Can you break that down for me? I always get a little confused about that whole thing.
Oh, sure. It's pretty simple. Basically, you take the total carbs and you subtract the fiber, and that's your net carbs.
So it's like net carbs equals total carbs minus fiber.
Exactly. And the fiber, that doesn't really get digested the same way as other carbs, so it doesn't mess with your blood sugar as much.
Okay, that makes more sense. So these keto ingredients, they help keep that net carb count low.
They do.
So, okay, but are all keto breads, like, made the same? Are they all good?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. Just because something's labeled keto doesn't mean it's automatically healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Got to be a smart label reader.
So, like, what should we be looking for when we're staring at those labels? What are the red flags?
Well, the first thing, like always, is check the net carbs per serving. That's your North Star, right?
Got it.
You ideally want a number that's, comfortably within your daily carb allowance. And don't get tricked by those giant serving sizes.
Oh.
Some brands, they'll try to make the carb count look lower by, like, using ridiculously tiny slices.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah, totally. So net carbs are key, that's for sure. But you also want to, like, really look at that ingredients list.
Yeah.
What kind of flours are they using? Are there any added sugars hiding in there? And watch the fat content, too. Some of these keto breads can be pretty high in fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which can be good. It keeps you feeling full, but it might not, like, fit with everyone's diet plan.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's all about balance, right? Getting those macros right, but still enjoying the food you eat.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so we've got the science behind keto breads. We've got the ingredients. We've even got some, like, warnings, right? Things to watch out for. But I think there's a bigger question here.
Ooh, I like where this is going. Hit me with it.
Okay, so if bread is, like, this super common food, almost every culture has some form of bread, why is it so carb heavy nowadays? Now, that's a fascinating question. And it really gets to, like, how our food system has changed over time. You know?
I never thought about it like that.
Traditional ways of making bread, they used whole grains and these slow fermentation processes.
Oh, interesting.
And that made the bread more nutrient-rich and lower on the glycemic index, Like, it didn't spike your blood sugar as much.
But that takes time, right? Like, real time and effort.
Exactly. And nowadays, everything's got to be fast.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Yeah. Instant gratification.
Totally.
Yeah.
And modern bread making, it's all about speed and making sure the bread lasts on the shelf forever, right?
Makes sense.
So they use refined grains and they add sugars, and that's what pumps up those carb counts.
So we've basically traded, like, good nutrition for convenience.
In a way, yeah. And that's why it's, like, more important than ever to really be aware of what's in your food,
To read labels, understand ingredients,
Absolutely.
that's powerful stuff.
It is. And it's like keto breads are almost like pushing back against that whole refined carb added sugar thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a rebellion.
Right. It's a way to like enjoy bread again, but on keto terms.
I love that. And that actually brings us to another really cool aspect of keto breads, the psychology of it all. You mentioned it earlier, but I want to explore it a bit more.
Oh, yeah, let's dive in. What about the psychology of keto breads gets you, what resonates with you?
Well, for me, it's feeling like I can eat normally again. You know what I mean? Like when I first started keto, giving up bread was rough.
It's a staver for so many people.
Well, it was brutal. And like keto breads, they let me have sandwiches again, toast in the morning, even just a piece of bread with dinner.
Yeah.
And that made such a huge difference. Like mentally, I could stick with the diet.
It's about making the diet like fit into your life.
Right.
Not the other way around.
Exactly. And it's not just about like the food itself. It's about the things we do with bread, right? Like we share bread with people. It's part of celebrations.
Yeah. It's a social thing too.
Big time. And when you take bread away, it's like you're taking away those moments, those traditions.
Makes sense.
But keto breads, they kind of bring those things back. You can like still be part of it all.
It's about those like little victories,
Yeah.
The things that make it all feel a little easier, a little more fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, now before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I got to ask you something that's been on my mind.
Okay, lay it on me.
So we've talked about what makes a good keto bread, right? The ingredients, the carb counts, all that. But what are the biggest mistakes people make with keto bread? The traps they fall into?
Ooh, pitfalls and traps, huh? That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm all about learning from those like keto bread fails, you know.
Me too. And trust me, we've all been there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, so one of the biggest traps I see people falling into is, well, it's not paying enough attention to those serving sizes.
Yeah, that's easy to do, right? Like you get excited about having bread again.
Exactly. You're like, oh, it's keto bread. I can have 2-3 slices, no problem.
Yeah.
But even with keto breads, portion control is still super important.
Right.
Those calories and carbs, they can sneak up on you.
They really can. Okay, so serving sizes, that's a big one. What else? What other mistakes should we avoid?
Well, another one that comes to mind is this idea that, like, all keto breads are the same,
Like, if it says keto on the label, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we talked about this earlier, right? Some are definitely better than others.
So you still gotta, be a detective.
You got to do your homework, yeah. Check the labels, read those ingredients, and don't just believe everything you see,
Be skeptical, question everything.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got serving sizes. We've got being choosy about which keto breads we buy. What else? Oh, this is a big one. Don't fall into the trap of using keto breads to replace all those other, really nutritious foods.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, don't just eat pita bread sandwiches for every meal.
Yeah. I know it's easy to do, right? It's convenient, it's familiar.
Totally.
But variety, that's so important for a good keto diet, right?
So we still need our veggies, our healthy fats, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Those are your, nutritional all-stars.
Yeah. And the keto bread, that's like a fun bonus.
A supporting character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so we've covered the science, the ingredients, the downsides, even the mistakes people make.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, but I think there's one more thing we need to talk about before we wrap up this whole keto bread journey.
Oh, and what's that?
The psychological side of it all. We keep coming back to this, but I think it's really important.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
Right. Like how we feel about food, it affects our choices, how well we stick to a diet,
Yeah. It's everything, honestly.
Yeah.
And keto, it can be tough. It can feel limiting.
It can.
So having those little wins, those things that make you feel good, they're so important.
And for a lot of people, keto bread is that win, It makes them feel like they're not missing out.
Like they can still have those, those comforting foods, those rituals.
Yeah. And that's what makes it sustainable. That's how you stick with it for the long haul. Right?
That's the key. That's the key. It's got to feel good, It's got to be something you can live with.
Totally. It's got to be enjoyable. Okay, I think we've covered just about everything there is to cover on keto breads. Any final thoughts before we move on to the big finale?
Final thoughts. Let me think. I guess I'd just say this. Knowledge is power, right? The more you know about keto breads, the better choices you can make.
I like that.
And don't be afraid to, experiment, Try different brands, different recipes.
Yeah.
See what works for you. See what you enjoy.
Exactly. Keto's all about finding what works for you. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. It's a journey,
Yeah.
not a destination.
That's a good way to put it. All right, so I think it's time to wrap this up. But before we do, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners out there who are, like, ready to jump into the world of keto breads?
Parting words of wisdom, huh? Let's see.
Yeah, any, like, last-minute advice for our keto bread explorers?
Well, I'd say, first of all, don't be afraid to, make mistakes along the way.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, you're going to try a keto bread and be like, nope, not for me.
Exactly. It
And
happened.
part of the process, right?
It is. It is. And, just because one keto bread doesn't work out doesn't mean they're all bad.
Yeah. There's so many options out there.
There are. So, keep experimenting. Find what you like.
Keep trying till you find the one.
Exactly. And you know what? Don't be afraid to get creative in the kitchen.
Oh, like, make your own keto bread.
Yeah. There are tons of recipes online.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
It can be like a fun project.
Yeah, and then you know exactly what's going in your bread.
That's the best part.
Control freak alert. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we've talked about the science, the ingredients, even the psychology of keto breads. We've covered a lot.
We have. But I want to, like, circle back to this idea of being mindful, right? Like, even with keto breads, it's not about just going crazy, right?
Right. Moderation is still key, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't swap out all your veggies for keto bread, no matter how good it tastes.
Exactly. Balance, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, balance and everything. Okay, so, big picture here. Keto breads, can they be a part of a healthy keto lifestyle?
I'd say, yeah, absolutely. If
Well,
you're smart about it, right?
choose wisely. Pay attention to those ingredients.
And most importantly, listen to your body.
Like, how does this bread make you feel? Does it fit into your goals?
Yeah, it's all about finding what works for you, and what makes you feel your best.
So it's not a free-all, but it's not, like, totally off limits either, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot.
I love it. All right, folks. Well, I think that wraps up our deep dive into the world of keto breads.
Time to go forth and conquer those keto bread aisles, right?
Armed with knowledge and, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Always. Label reading is your superpower.
Word. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, happy ketoing.